Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Post-Operation Sindoor, PM Modi warns terror sponsors. India will retaliate without restraint. 284 terror attacks in 6 months. Pakistan pays the price for nurturing extremism. And terror, suppression and neglect, Professor Sajjad Raza exposes grim reality of life in POJK. 1 month after the devastating terror attack in Pahalgam that shook the nation, India has delivered a firm message to the world and to Pakistan in particular. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his first public appearance since Operation Sindoor, not only celebrated the success of India's swift and targeted retaliation, but also issued a clear warning to terror sponsors. He declared that the days of restraint are over. India will hit back hard and decisively. As part of its post-operation strategy, India has also launched a global diplomatic outreach to expose Pakistan's terror nexus. A report.
जो सिंदूर मिटाने निकले थे उन्हें मिट्टी में मिलाया है.
Addressing a massive rally in Rajasthan's Bikaner, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a fierce attack on Pakistan, invoking the power of Operation Sindoor, which was India's prompt retaliatory strike in Pakistan-controlled territory after the April 22nd Pahalgam terror incident. The Prime Minister declared that India destroyed 9 terrorist hideouts in just 22 minutes, sending a loud and clear message to both enemies of the nation and their sponsors. He said that the country has witnessed what happens when Sindoor or vermilion, a symbol of peace, turns into barood or gunpowder. Modi asserted that Pakistan's Rahim Yar Khan Air Force Base, reportedly one of the launch pads for the attack, has been reduced to rubble and is now in ICU. He emphasized that India will no longer distinguish between terrorists and the states that harbor them.
22 तारीख के हमले के जवाब में हमने 22 मिनट में आतंकियों के 9 सबसे बड़े ठिकाने तबाह कर दिए. दुनिया ने और देश के दुश्मनों ने भी देख लिया कि जब सिंदूर बारूद बन जाता है तो नतीजा क्या होता है.
As part of its diplomatic counter-terror campaign, India has deployed multi-party parliamentary delegations to 32 nations. The third group, led by parliamentarian Kanimoy Karunanidhi, has departed for Russia, Slovenia, Greece, Latvia and Spain. This comes after 2 earlier delegations, one led by lawmaker Sanjay Jha, which met the Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya, and another led by parliamentarian Shrikant Shinde, which held talks with top UAE officials. UAE and Japan have both expressed strong solidarity with India's fight against terrorism. Japan's Foreign Minister Iwaya lauded India's restraint and called for strict action against those responsible for the Pahalgam attack. Meanwhile, UAE authorities affirmed their commitment to standing shoulder to shoulder with India against terrorism.
UAE is standing shoulder to shoulder with full commitment with India against terrorism. The clear-cut message given by the UAE was, we stand against terrorism with India, fighting terrorism.
Meanwhile, Pakistan remains silent on the extent of the damage it suffered during Operation Sindoor. However, Indian intelligence sources indicate that the strike dealt a severe blow to terrorist infrastructure and Pakistan's military capability in the region. India has also revived discussion around the Indus Waters Treaty, with PM Modi hinting that Pakistan may no longer enjoy unfettered access to Indian waters if it continues to export terrorism. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, in a hard-hitting interview with Dutch broadcaster NOS, linked the Pahalgam attack to the extremist religious views of Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir. He said the attack was ideologically rooted in Munir's recent anti-Hindu and anti-India remarks, which sought to justify the two-nation theory. Jaishankar's remarks underline New Delhi's position that the Pakistani state, not just rogue elements, is complicit in fueling terror. From military retaliation to global diplomacy, India is making it clear that terror attacks will not go unanswered.
Pakistan is once again under the grip of rampant terrorism, and this time it's the restive Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province bearing the brunt. A recent report by the Counter-Terrorism Department has laid bare the deteriorating law and order situation in the region, with 284 terror attacks recorded in just the first half of 2025. The data is yet another indictment of Pakistan's long-standing policy of nurturing extremist groups, an approach that has now come back to haunt its own people. Here's a detailed report. In 2025 alone, 284 terrorist incidents have rocked Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan's northwestern province that borders Afghanistan. According to the Counter-Terrorism Department, North Waziristan district recorded the highest number of attacks at 53, followed by Bannu, Dera Ismail Khan, Peshawar and Kurram. This follows a worrying trend. 732 attacks were reported in 2024 and 651 in 2023, marking the worst escalation of violence since 2009 and 2010.
When the Afghan regime fell in 2020, Pakistan believed that it had got the necessary strategic depth it had always desired. What it did not realize, even after so many years, that it had created another Frankenstein. And that Frankenstein is coming back to haunt him, because if you look at the goals of that Frankenstein, TTP, it is to establish an Islamic state, a very fundamentalist Islamic state. Whereas the Pakistani army is to have a country which is controlled by the army. When there is such a clash, obviously there will be conflict, and the conflict will take the form of terror, because this is what the Pakistani army has taught these particular groups.
The law and order situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa began collapsing in mid-2021, coinciding with the return of the Afghan Taliban to power. As Kabul fell, so did any semblance of security along Pakistan's tribal belt. Groups like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, operating from Waziristan and long supported by Islamabad's military and intelligence apparatus, found new life and lethality. Ironically, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, instead of condemning the Taliban resurgence, welcomed it. He referred to the Taliban takeover as breaking the shackles of slavery and declared the regime to be pro-Pakistan. Those statements now ring hollow as the same Taliban proxies turn against the very state that once nurtured them.
When Kabul fell in 2020 and the legitimate Afghan government was toppled and the Taliban came in, very few days later you had ISI generals going, having a cup of tea. That image went particularly viral. They were boasting that this was all they're doing. But remember, the goals of the Taliban is to have an Islamic emirate in Afghanistan. It is not to give Pakistan strategic depth. And this is something Pakistan completely failed. Now, what had it done? In pushing the Afghan Taliban, it had to give some leeway to local Taliban also, and the local Taliban has become extremely strong. That local Taliban has bases both in KPK as well as in Afghanistan, and therefore it does whatever it needs to do.
The price of these miscalculations has been devastating. The 2023 Peshawar mosque bombing at the police headquarters left over 86 policemen dead and more than 200 injured. It was one of the deadliest attacks on the force. But it wasn't the first, nor the last. The TTP has orchestrated a string of brutal attacks over the years. The 2014 Peshawar school massacre, the 2016 Lahore suicide bombing, the 2016 Quetta hospital attacks, the 2014 Karachi airport assault, and the 2010 Lucky Marwat bombing. Each of these tragedies highlights not just the brutality of terror groups, but also the utter failure of Pakistan's security establishment. Despite lofty claims and the much-hyped National Action Plan launched after the Peshawar school massacre, Pakistan has failed to eliminate terrorism. Instead, the state has turned its guns on civilians in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, and other tribal regions. Local accounts accuse the military of burning homes, kidnapping youth, and labeling innocent civilians as anti-nationals, all in the name of counter-terrorism.
So what they do is to arrest people who are trying to use constitutional means, narrowly defined by the Pakistan constitution itself, to target them, their families. They are disappeared. So what they are very foolishly doing is to kill the civil society intermediaries between the local population and the Pakistani state. Who is left behind? Only the militants is left behind. So you are looking for a very bloody military solution, which the Pakistani state thinks it is capable of winning because they have won this battle before.
Pakistan's soil continues to host a lethal cocktail of terror outfits that pose a threat not only to its own citizens but to the entire region. Islamabad claims to be a global partner in counter-terrorism, but the ground realities suggest otherwise. Terrorism and Pakistan have become synonymous, and unfortunate results of decades of strategic miscalculations and double games. Terror, suppression, and decades of deliberate neglect. That's the harsh reality of life in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. While Islamabad continues to use POJK as a pawn in its regional game, voices from within are now exposing the truth. Professor Sajjad Raza, a prominent political leader from the region, has once again sounded the alarm. In his latest remarks, he reveals how POJK has become a hub for terror training camps, how basic services like healthcare are non-existent, and how the local population is increasingly demanding freedom from Pakistan's oppressive rule. Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has for decades remained under the shadow of terrorism, violence, and political suppression. Global watchdogs and human rights groups have repeatedly raised concerns about the region being used as a breeding ground for terror activities, with Islamabad facing allegations of directly funding, training, and harboring terrorist elements. Recently, Professor Sajjad Raza, chairman of the National Equality Party Jammu and Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Ladakh, broke his silence yet again, shedding light on the troubling conditions in POJK. He exposed the proliferation of terror training camps in both Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, highlighting how these have evolved into more covert operations to evade detection.
As far as Pakistan is concerned, I think almost 50% of the masjids in Pakistan, they are terrorist camps. And in POJK, there are camps at many places. These camps are now, they have taken different forms actually. They are not typically, like a common person can't understand whether there is training being given at some place or not. But there are definitely many more camps in POJK, and in Pakistan there are loads of hundreds of camps in Pakistan where the people are trained for terrorism and then to carry out the acts of terrorism.
The rampant terrorism and repression in the region have fueled resentment among the local population. Decades of neglect, exploitation, and broken promises by Pakistan have left the people of POJK disillusioned. Pakistan's control over POJK has not only stifled voices for freedom but also led to severe underdevelopment. One of the most alarming aspects is the complete absence of healthcare infrastructure in these areas.
There is no comparison between the facilities and development in mainland Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistani occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Now, there is not even a single hospital in POJK and Gilgit-Baltistan. About 6.57 million people live in these areas, and there is, I repeat once again, there is not a single hospital for this 7 million population. There are only small medical units with very basic medical facilities, and people with any complex medical needs or people with any serious conditions, they are always referred to Pakistan, to Rawalpindi, Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. And many people pass away while traveling to Pakistani hospitals. So this is the state of affairs as far as health is concerned.
From growing terrorism to mass public discontent and collapsing public services, the situation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir remains dire. For decades, the region has been used as an asset by Pakistan's military and intelligence agencies, often at the expense of the local population. The unchecked spread of terrorism, growing cries for independence, and the absence of even the most basic public services expose a brutal truth. POJK has been sacrificed at the altar of Pakistan's strategic ambitions. Let's turn our focus to a region long engulfed in turmoil and resistance, Balochistan. Known for its vast mineral wealth and geostrategic importance, Balochistan remains one of the most volatile and underrepresented regions under Pakistani control. The people of Balochistan continue to face widespread allegations of enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and systematic economic neglect, all under the shadow of mega projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Joining us today is Hakeem Baloch, a Baloch activist and a vocal advocate for the rights of the Baloch people. There are repeated reports of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings in Balochistan. Can you shed light on how widespread these tactics are?
According to the Baloch human rights groups, the number is over 20,000. The people that they have been abducted. We call them the Baloch missing persons. They're known, widespread with that term. So their number is in thousands. Like I can count like hundreds of my own friends, my own colleagues, they were abducted by the Pakistani state in different parts of Balochistan. And this situation of enforced disappearances, it's a very serious one. It's a unbearable, unimaginable pain that the families of those abducted people go through every day. If you lose something, if something that you love, that you care, and that is missing, say for a day or two, you will feel that pain. They're like human beings. Someone's father is missing for 15 years, someone's son is missing for 10 years, someone's brother is missing for 7 years, and they're protesting day in, day out.
How do you interpret the targeting of individuals like Maharang Baloch, Biber Zeri, Saida Baloch, as well as doctors, students, and human rights advocates who are not affiliated with any armed group but are simply demanding dignity?
This is the idea of Pakistan that runs on targeting political voices, voices that can challenge the narrative of the state, that can challenge the very foundation of Pakistan, which is based on a lie. Now, Dr. Maran Baloch is a political and human rights activist. She is the head of Baloch Ekjati Committee, which is a civil rights movement which is demanding the rights of the people. And those people are political, peaceful. All they are doing is protesting. All they are doing, is meeting with the Baloch people, raising voice for them. And as you mentioned, Saida Baloch, Bibagar Baloch, and many other Gulzadi, Bibo, and as you have heard, Dr. Sabia Baloch's father, has been arrested just to force her to give up on her struggle. And there are many cases like this where families of the Baloch, activists are being targeted just to prevent them from their struggle. But I just want to say this here that, with all that, abductions, arrest, the targeting individuals like Dr. Mahrang Baloch, who is a very famous and undisputed leader in Balochistan. So if you target someone like that, you're not bringing any resolution. You are even creating more issues for the state of the Pakistan, and there will be the repercussions of these actions.
Balochistan is rich in minerals and strategically critical, yet remains Pakistan's poorest province. Your comment.
Since the very beginning, when Pakistan occupied Balochistan, the relation has been of a colonized people and a colonizer, for oppressor and oppressed people. We are not Pakistani. We have never been part of Pakistan. Then thankfully Pakistan has also treated us that way, because that reminds the Baloch who they are and what is our relation with the Pakistan. So Balochistan as a land is not poor. Balochistan as a country is not poor. It has gold, copper, gas, oil. It has over 600-kilometer long coastal belt that is one of the biggest passage in that region. Even with the revenue that generates from that bit, Balochistan could run its independent country for hundreds of years without any problem. But at the moment, the Baloch people they're in a struggle. Their struggle for their independence. And that is why the Baloch people are living a miserable life because of the occupying state of Pakistan. But yes, as you said, it's a very rich land. I would not call it a province of Pakistan. A very rich land occupied by Pakistan. That is why they are suffering this way.
How do you view the impact of mega projects like the China Pakistan Economic Corridor on the region?
Firstly, if I see it from the Baloch's point of view, that mega project has been a disastrous project for the Baloch people. It has not brought a single job, like not talking about hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs, a single job which is worth, for the Baloch, not even a single job for them. It has also made the life of the Baloch miserable. Secondly, this all China-Pakistan economic corridor, it is being constructed or made without the will of Baloch people. We did not consent for China to come in Balochistan and invest billions of dollars. Now they even realize this was a mistake to put their money in Balochistan, give that money to Pakistan. They say they spent billions of dollars, but I don't think they've, the return was even $1 million as of yet. So it's a big loss for China.
How do you respond to Pakistan's claim that there is no oppression in Balochistan and that such narratives are foreign propaganda?
Look, any occupying force, any power that occupies the people of a land, they will always say that's just a propaganda, that's just a lie, there's nothing of that sort is happening. But there are people, they're living that life. There are people, they're going through these miseries. And thanks to the social media, thanks to the open spaces where people can come and talk. The Balochistan, if you think about maybe 5 years ago, it was like a media blackout because the social media was not that active. There was no much information was coming out, and the Pakistani state was able to carry out any kind of brutalities in Balochistan, and no one would question it because the information was so much hidden. It was so much suppressed by the Pakistani state. But thankfully, people have a phone. If you have a phone, you can record all that atrocities that is happening in Balochistan. Pakistan can deny it because this is the only thing the Pakistani state has. It's denial.
Recent BLA actions, from the assassination of ISI operative Mohammad Nawaz to the Jafar Express hijacking and now attacks at various locations, indicate a major escalation. What does this shift in strategy signify? And what message is the BLA trying to send through such coordinated operations?
All these attacks shows the strength of Baloch Liberation Army, how powerful they've become, and how much support they enjoy in Balochistan. And this would also mean that they're telling the world that there is a power in that region that cannot be ignored anymore. You cannot rely on a power like Pakistan, which is involved in corruption, which is involved in international terrorism, which harbors leaders of Al Qaeda, like Osama bin Laden was there, which harbors terrorists who are involved in terrorism across the region, and internationally. So this is something the BLA is telling the world, that they are a power not to be ignored. They are a power to stay there. They are a power to fight against Pakistan, whether you support us or not.
What are your expectations from the international community and global powers now that Baloch freedom narrative is gaining global traction?
Our aim is, our request is, our urge to the world is, please understand that this is an indigenous, homegrown struggle for the freedom of Balochistan, and we are looking up to you. We know there are people in the world, there are countries in the world, especially in the region, like India itself. It's the largest democracy in the world. So, and as a neighbor, this is a responsibility which falls on the shoulder of India to support Balochistan's struggle as much as they can and any way they can. It's Pakistan's blame shifting has, it won't change anything. We, the Baloch, are saying openly that we would take support from India if we get it, and from any country for that matter that supports the Balochistan's cause for freedom.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views, and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.